The day I decided to divorce Emily Watson was my birthday. At the dinner table, I pretended to joke and asked her if she loved me. Emily smiled, but it wasn't a real smile. She was a woman in her 30s, so why did she still act so pretentious? I lowered my head without saying a word, glancing at the screenshot on my phone. In the chat background, Emily was hugging another man and kissing him passionately. In the text box, she confessed affectionately, "I, Emily Watson, have only ever loved you, James Carter." I looked up again and asked her for a birthday gift. She agreed quickly, saying, "Whatever you want, just say it." I took off my wedding ring and handed it to her, giving her a new beginning. "Emily Watson, let's get a divorce." She didn't react at first. Her perfectly arched brows drew together as she calmly put down her knife and fork, wiped the corners of her mouth with a napkin, then looked at me with visible annoyance. "Michael, what's wrong with you? You're acting like someone I don't know." I took a sip of juice and said, "Why? Is it that hard to hear the word love after 5 years of marriage? Don't we deserve some romance?" Emily got up, walked around the table, and patted me on the shoulder. "Don't be dramatic. You know I'm not good with sweet talk. I heard you lost that project recently. Have you been in a bad mood? I have a trade show coming up. Come with me, get some air." I avoided her hand. "The divorce papers will be ready soon," I said. She snapped, "Michael Evans, are you kidding me right now? I just found out I'm pregnant, and now you want a divorce? Are you stressed at work or just completely losing it?" It was the work stress. I'd always been mild-tempered. Even through all these years fighting in the business world, I'd kept my composure, polite and never foul-mouthed. But ever since my wife got pregnant, I found myself angrier. I stood up and threw the phone in front of her. "You're the one who cheated. Don't push me, or this is going to court." On the screen was a screenshot James Carter sent me. It showed Emily kissing him at a class reunion, surrounded by old classmates. The chat overlay was a series of slurred, voice-to-text confessions. She said she'd never forgotten him, that marrying me because her parents told her to was the biggest regret of her life. That she had only ever loved James Carter. When Emily saw the photo, she quickly tried to explain. "I was drunk that night. You know James, he never takes anything seriously. He grabbed my phone and typed nonsense. The kiss was just a moment. I didn't mean it." She looked truly stunned. Probably because she actually was drunk that night. Rubbing her temple, she added, "You know who I am. I won't go to any more of those reunions." "Yeah, I know exactly who you are," I replied, unlocking my phone to review the divorce process the lawyer just sent. She forced a smile. "There's my rational husband. Happy birthday, by the way. I'm heading out to prep for the exhibition." She grabbed her coat and walked toward the door. As she opened it, I said flatly, "Emily Watson, you're just a cheating wife who broke her husband's heart while he was trying to start a new life." She turned around, shocked. "Michael, you're being completely unreasonable. I told you I was drunk. I took my supplement pills," then said coldly, "Save it for the judge. Let's see if he buys that excuse." She slammed the door behind her and left. I cut the cake myself and took a small bite. The cream slid down my throat and made my stomach churn. I ran to the bathroom and retched for what felt like forever. That's when Thomas Reed called. He was the one who helped launch my first Project Me First investor. Even after returning to manage his family affairs full-time, he kept in touch, especially since both our wives were pregnant. He always said watching me was like seeing a version of his life he could never live. But now, looking at the message he sent, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Another version of your life? More like a damn mirror. His situation was even messier than mine. In the photo he sent, a man and a woman were tangled up naked in the back seat of a car, stuck together like glue. I forced down the nausea and picked up his call. Thomas was frantic. "My wife's pregnant and I was so looking forward to the baby, then I find out she's screwing some gigolo. God damn it, I'm so sick I could puke out my intestines. I didn't know how to comfort him, so I just told him what happened to me. You're not alone. Same thing here. Let's get through this. Emily. Seriously, he exclaimed. She's like a saint home, gym, work every day. Everyone says she's the cleanest woman in the circle. When I didn't respond, his shock turned to fury. Meet me at the hospital tomorrow morning. Let's end it. Make her get an abortion. I cut in immediately. No, Thomas, I'll go with you, but don't rush that decision. Think it through. When he realized I wasn't pushing for an abortion, he calmed down and started chatting more, but said it was better to talk over drinks in a few days. After hanging up, I rubbed my temples and lay on the bed. Maybe Emily was right, maybe I did need a break. I closed my eyes to rest, but my phone buzzed again. It was James Carter. We hadn't spoken since college, but ever since he got back from overseas last month, my inbox had lit up like fireworks. This time, his messages were blowing up one after another. Michael, I'm really sorry. I got drunk at the reunion the other day. I took Emily's phone, accidentally opened your chat, and hit record. She was drunk too and started saying all that nonsense. Michael, we got confused in time and space after drinking that night. You know how it was back in college. Emily and I once hugged at a party. Someone took pictures and sent them to me, and I accidentally set one as the chat background while I was drunk. Emily told me you were really looking forward to this baby, and she asked me to explain everything clearly to you. We're really innocent. Don't be angry, we'll apologize to you together someday. God, I was such a mess. I drunkenly recorded the video, converted it to text, used that kissing photo as a background, and finally sent the screenshot. What a disaster. After all these years, James Carter hadn't changed one bit. Still that same clean-cut face, always looking harmless while doing the dirtiest things. He mentioned how the three of us were classmates in college. My relationship with Emily took the classic old money route, two family friends raising their kids to eventually marry. From elementary school to high school, our parents made sure our lives overlapped. Emily was always top of her class, and I was always chasing her tail. Our families couldn't buy our way into college, so we studied hard and got in on merit, tied for first and second in the entrance scores. When our admission letters arrived, Emily's grandmother brought her to our house and said the engagement had already been agreed upon. They'd hold a proper ceremony in 2 years when we were older. Emily's mom joked that once in college, gold diggers would swarm around rich kids and ruin everything. Emily snapped back with something sharp, I only like Michael. I'd have to be blind to fall for anyone else. The adults laughed. She took my hand and dragged me into a quiet corner. My face turned red as she kissed me for the first time. She promised she'd take care of me forever, that she'd never betray me. I didn't expect that in our freshman year, Emily would lose her mind and fall for James Carter's twisted games. I say, games, because he never pursued her directly or tried anything overt. He always created these bizarre coincidences, then played innocent afterward. The whole campus knew Emily and I were a couple. But somehow, James Carter always had his own moments with her. Like the time he rode a rental bike into her and bled from his forehead. She rushed him to the hospital. Later, he pulled me aside and said, Michael, don't get the wrong idea. It was just a hospital trip. Or the time Emily and I teamed up for a student event. He volunteered to help, then, accidentally, spilled her milk tea all over our documents. He offered to reprint everything and dragged Emily along to the print shop. When they got back, he told me, it's just printing stuff, don't overthink it. At first, Emily seemed annoyed. She'd tell me how James was the most irritating guy she'd ever met. But slowly, she changed. She started bringing 2 portions when she brought me snacks, one for poor James Carter. Then she started calling him Ayun, and he called her Emily. At my freshman birthday party, Emily put her arm around his shoulder and joked, from now on, we have a little brother named Ayun. James grinned and replied, what little brother? Let's say we're just good friends. He kept repeating, Michael, don't take it the wrong way, we're just friends. Then one day, Emily told me that what she felt for me wasn't romantic love. After our breakup, she and James dove into a passionate fling that ended abruptly when James left the country with his female professor. Emily's grandmother was furious and cut off all her cards. Emily dragged her suitcase to my doorstep and stood in the rain all night. She ended up in the hospital with a high fever, muttering my name over and over, begging for forgiveness. My mom cried and told me, girls act out sometimes and hold it against her. My dad was furious. He said I was being immature, refusing to let Emily in, and letting her get sick in the rain. In the end, I couldn't abandon the girl who'd grown up with me. I gave in to family pressure and got engaged to her. But I never thought James Carter would come back again, pulling the same stunts like nothing ever changed. Thomas Reed chose a tea house with a quiet, elegant vibe. It had only been 2 weeks since we last met, but both of us had gone through a lot. His eyes were bloodshot, his beard scruffy, his shirt wrinkled. I, on the other hand, looked composed in a tailored suit and a watch I'd matched carefully. We sipped tea, nibbled on pastries, and I took my supplements. Then Thomas leaned in, unable to hold back any longer. Michael, did I hear you right on the phone? Emily cheated on you? I nodded. You heard right. He blinked in disbelief. Then I don't get it. What are you doing? Are you really going to raise a child for a woman like that? I placed a hand over his and said, Thomas, you've known me a long time. Tell me, have I ever done anything without a reason? His eyes narrowed. I pulled out the prenuptial agreement Emily's family had signed. According to the contract, if either party cheats, all assets of the guilty party go to the child. Thomas's jaw dropped. Damn, you old money folks play a different game. Guys like me would never think of that. I let out a bitter smile. It's all about interests. Families like ours don't want divorces ruining reputations, so they get creative. But the agreement's a trap. It only takes effect if the baby's born. Once that happens, most men, especially ordinary guys, won't go through with the divorce. Although it's the wife who suffers through 10 months of pregnancy, what man doesn't look forward to his own child? Who could bear to let their kid grow up without a mother? I thought of my own mother. When my dad was young, he fooled around a lot. Every time Mom felt wronged, she'd come to me crying, Michael, I didn't divorce your father because of you and your brothers. I didn't want you growing up without a dad. I was just a kid back then, and I couldn't understand. I'd always feel indignant for her. But now that I'm older, I see it differently. I don't want to be just an ordinary man. Thomas Reed handed me the agreement with a bitter look. Michael, I don't have the protection you do. I tried to comfort him. Think it through. It's not something you can delay forever, but you also can't rush into it. Before I could finish, he cut me off. I don't need to think. A woman like her. She disgusts me. I don't want her giving birth to my child. I swallowed a shrimp dumpling, wiped my mouth, and nodded. All right. If that's your decision, there's no time to waste. I'll go with you today. On the way there, we agreed he'd talk to his wife while I went for a checkup. At the entrance of the OB/GYN department, a man had just come out of the operating room, looking pale. Another was crouched in the corner, hugging his knees, head buried low. When they finally called Thomas Reed's wife's name, he grabbed my sleeve tightly. His face turned white, his hands trembling. I leaned in and whispered, What's wrong? You don't want to go in? He bit his lip and pulled me into the stairwell nearby. It was empty. He sat on the bench, covered his face, and began to cry softly. I walked over and hugged him gently, whispering, Don't bottle it up. Just tell me what's on your mind. His voice shook as he leaned on my shoulder. Michael, I hate this so much. I can't accept it. Her health has always been poor. We tried for so long to have this baby. I never thought it would end like this. If you were me, could you give it up? And I haven't had a business of my own in a while. That woman wiped out my last company. This baby is the only bargaining chip I have to tie her down. What do I do if she's gone? He spilled everything in one breath. I sighed deeply and patted his back. You're right to think about this carefully. You shouldn't have jumped straight to abortion. Michael, he lifted his head and looked at me. Do you think this is something you can just walk in and do? I gave a half smile. You still have to make an appointment. But sometimes people only think clearly when they're right on the edge. That's why I pushed you to come. Calm down. We'll take a long-term view. Call me, all right? Thomas nodded and hugged me tightly. After he'd calmed down, we got ready to leave. But we barely made it 2 steps out of the elevator before I saw her Emily Watson supporting a man with a bleeding leg in line at the surgery department. Both of them were wearing matching sportswear. The man had Emily's coat on, but it couldn't hide his athletic build. It was James Carter. Isn't that your Emily? Thomas's emotions, which had just settled, flared up again. He stormed over, grabbed James by the collar, and slapped him across the face. People started crowding around. You cheating scumbag! Thomas roared. James held his face, tears in his eyes. Before Emily could say anything, a young woman holding a bottle of water rushed over. Who are you calling a scumbag? Don't start yelling like this. Who are you? Thomas asked. I'm Sarah Brooks, a student of Professor Carter. He's an outstanding educator. How could you slander him like that, she said, standing tall with youthful confidence. I'd recently looked into James Carter's situation after he came back to the country. He was now a university lecturer. This girl must be one of his students. An outstanding educator? More like a shameless fraud. He's married, and here he is cuddling up with my wife. What a joke. Thomas was furious, pointing his finger back and forth between Emily and James like he was catching a live soap opera. Honestly, the whole scene was absurd. Big bro, you got it all wrong, James stammered. I hurt my leg and couldn't stand. I ran into an old classmate at the gym, and she kindly brought me to the hospital. Don't start making baseless accusations. Tears streamed down his face. Emily quickly withdrew the hand she was using to support him and faced the crowd. It's just a misunderstanding. Nothing to see here, please disperse. I scoffed. Emily, you're pregnant and due for a prenatal checkup. You always tell me you're too busy and don't want me coming along. Turns out, this is what's keeping you so busy. She walked up to me, explaining, I've been under a lot of pressure lately, so I've been going to the gym to relieve stress. I just happened to run into James. He got hurt. This was just an accident. The last time he was drunk. This time. Also just bad luck. I sneered and pointed at James's clothes. That jacket he's wearing? I bought it for you. Emily turned pale and shakily pulled the jacket off him. Her toned arms were exposed, and she shivered in the cold. Sarah Brooks quickly wrapped her own coat around James and handed him a bottle of water. Professor, have some water to calm down. James pushed it aside and staggered toward me. Michael, we were college classmates. Please believe me. Nothing happened between us. Emily gave me the jacket because I was cold. Professor, Sarah said, tugging his sleeve, you don't need to explain. The innocent don't need to defend themselves. Emily reached for my hand. Michael, let's go home and talk about this. These 3 could have starred in their own drama. I felt nauseous. No need. You stay here. I shook her off and dragged Thomas away. As we walked, Thomas let out a long breath. I didn't catch that Playboy Zhang in time, but slapping Emily's guy feels good enough. I laughed in disbelief. Thomas looked at me and said, Michael, you're something else. You don't even get mad. I've been mad for a long time. I just want to end this. I sighed. James Carter showing up might have been fate saving me. I've had enough of Thomas Reed and Emily Watson. When I first married Emily, I was full of joy. I thought we'd overcome the drama, that I was finally with the woman I loved. From school uniforms to wedding suits, I gave it everything I had to make this relationship work. Emily Watson had chronic gastrointestinal issues, so I always reminded her to watch her diet, avoid raw or cold food. She was into fitness, and I used to go to the gym with her whenever I had time. But over time, I sensed something was off. I had emotions, real ones. But she only knew how to buy gifts, never once asking me why I was unhappy. When we worked out together, it was dead silence between us. I'd try to wipe her sweat, and she'd flinch like I was bothering her. She didn't used to be like that. After her breakup with James Carter, she went all out trying to make amends, swearing she wanted to be better for me. But after we got married, it was like a race car engine cooling off after the final lap, silent, distant. I was miserable and had no idea why. On nights I collapsed emotionally, I'd hug her from behind, trying to find warmth. I changed. But she'd always tell me I was fine, to stop overthinking it. Eventually, I stopped trying. In public, we played the part of the loving couple. But in private, we were just roommates. Then, not long ago, she suddenly hugged me and said, "Michael, let's have a baby. Our own child." Both my mom and her mother had been urging us for years. That little spark of hope flickered inside me. Maybe, just maybe, having a child would bring us back together. I hadn't even processed that thought fully before she turned up pregnant. And right on cue, James Carter reappeared like a bad sequel. Emily said she was drunk, that's why she kissed him. But I know her drunk. In all the social scenes and business dinners, she'd had more drinks than I could count, and she always handled it with elegance and precision. When I saw that kissing photo, I didn't need an explanation. I already knew this marriage was broken beyond repair. Her so-called drunken nonsense made everything crystal clear. All that affection before the wedding. That wasn't love. It was strategy. She didn't want to make amends, she just wanted me to marry her. And once she got her ring, she regretted listening to her family. Everything I cherished from our childhood to our vows meant less to her than raising a champagne glass to James Carter. That night, after James sent the screenshot, I couldn't sleep. My pillow was soaked in tears. I hated myself for being so weak, for dragging myself through a rotting marriage, for foolishly thinking a child could fix any of this. I was grateful, though, that I'd never let go of my career. It was the one thing that still gave me strength. After leaving the hospital, I met up with Thomas Reed again. When we got home, Emily was already there. "Michael," she said, reaching out to hug me. I sidestepped instantly. She looked a bit nauseous, withdrew her hand, and held out her phone. "Michael, I know I shouldn't have contacted him again. I didn't expect to run into him at the gym. We're old classmates, and he was hurt. I had to help. You checked my phone, I deleted everything. We're strangers now." Then she pulled out a necklace, her expression full of false sincerity. "Don't be mad. It's not good for the baby. This is that rare blue diamond necklace I told you about. Let me put it on you." I said nothing. She sat me down in front of the mirror and placed the necklace around my neck. The gem shimmered cold and clear. Looking at her smiling eyes, I was reminded of that rainy night at the hospital, when she clung to my hand begging for forgiveness. I wouldn't fall for the same act twice. "Emily," I said flatly, "I've bought tons of cheap things that look like this. They're not that rare." She had been leaning over, admiring the necklace on my neck. But after what I said, she slowly stood up. Her tone turned cold. "Fine. I'll find you something better next time. But you should be careful, too. Don't get too close to Thomas Reed. He's gone paranoid, hired a private investigator to stalk his wife. You're a husband. You know what to do." I caught a glimpse of her legs as she walked away, followed by the soft click of the door closing. After she left, I pulled out my phone. The lawyer had just sent me the surveillance footage. Emily warned me not to follow Thomas's example, but why bother with PIs when I already own the damn gym? That's right, she didn't know. I'd bought it months ago. When I was in the hospital, I asked my lawyer to pull the security feed. The footage showed James Carter arriving with Sarah Brooks. He scanned the place and spotted Emily. Then he jumped on the treadmill next to her, feigning surprise. At first, he kept his distance, wiping fake tears, then he moved further away but kept glancing back at her. Suddenly, he collapsed, legs bleeding. Sarah rushed to help, but Emily shoved her aside and threw herself onto James like a lifeline. He clung to her like an octopus. I had to admit James Carter was a pro at this. A master manipulator. I called my lawyer again, asking him to track down Sarah Brooks. After that ugly scene with Emily, she started staying out all night. I made an appointment with a therapist, booked some mental massages. I told the counselor everything. She asked me, Mr. Michael, have you ever heard of an obedience test? I nodded. Yes. That was the one time I mocked her gift, and she got cold. It was like she was punishing me for not reacting the way she wanted. The counselor smiled. You're a smart man, Mr. Michael. Honestly, I think you just need to talk. Your mental resilience is strong. But I can see the way you hold things in, it's been forced into you. Suppressed. She was right. My whole childhood was built on suppression, thanks to my family. I've been working on myself for years, and I've gotten better. The counselor advised me to stay rested and keep busy doing things that help release stress. I followed her advice. I barely had time to be sad. Work during the day. Evenings helping Thomas read review projects. And at night, I'd rewatch the gym surveillance like it was my own private drama series. During the days Emily stayed away from home, she still went to the gym like clockwork. So did James Carter. His leg miraculously healed quickly. Rain or shine, he was there, always picking equipment farthest from Emily. And he always brought Sarah Brooks with him. Sarah Brooks took meticulous care of him, from adjusting the machine to handing him water and towels, attending to every detail. After years of marriage, I knew Emily Watson too well. She looked like she was calmly exercising, but in reality, she was distracted. Especially when James Carter and Sarah Brooks were chatting and laughing, her movements became stiff and mechanical. Every time James interacted with Sarah, he'd steal a glance at Emily. On that stage of three people, James Carter was deliberately using another woman to provoke Emily's jealousy, and she fell for it. Only Sarah Brooks was clueless. Emily's workouts became increasingly aimless. Then one day, James stopped bringing Sarah along. He fumbled with the machine by himself, clearly struggling. He looked up, scanned the room, and when his eyes met Emily's, they held the stare for a full minute before walking toward each other. Emily helped him adjust the nearest equipment, and they began working out side by side. They didn't exchange a single word, but I knew what I was seeing: dead ashes reigniting. Early one morning, after being absent for half a month, Emily finally called. Michael, my trade show event is in 3 days. I'll have someone drop off your suit. Be ready. I replied coldly, I'm busy, and hung up. That evening, I invited Thomas Reed over to talk through the investment projects we'd previously discussed. The two priorities at hand were deciding whether to keep the child and regaining financial leverage. I asked Thomas to quietly help identify and list assets under his wife's company and pick out some inconspicuous but promising ones. Beg her, guilt trip her, whatever works. Once you lock down those assets, you'll be back at the table, I advised. Thomas was stunned by my strategic thinking and nodded repeatedly. While reading my concise analysis report, he suddenly said, Michael, before I came here, I wasn't sure about keeping the baby. Now I know. It's not staying. His voice trembled. I can't go on living with a cheating woman. If I'm leaving, I need to rebuild my career. I'll be too busy to give the child a proper start. And unlike you, I'm emotionally dependent. If the baby's born, I'll drown in it. That's not good for me or the kid. He grabbed my hand. But I get why you'd choose differently. You've got the capacity to handle it. I nodded. Being a parent isn't just about giving birth, it's about showing up. Letting Emily leave empty-handed is just my way of punishing her. My child doesn't need her money, I can provide everything. Thomas asked quietly, Michael, have you thought about the absence of a mother figure? I sipped my water. A child's development depends on education. It's better to grow up with no parent than with a bad one. A competent father can offer complete support. Thomas's eyes turned red, completely aligned with me. I clapped and stood up. All right, enough heavy talk. Let me show you something entertaining. I set out some healthy snacks, poured fresh juice, and opened the latest gym footage my lawyer had sent over. Thomas switched into popcorn mode immediately. Emily Watson looked irritated in the clip. I gave her a thumbs up. She's probably still bitter I roasted her this morning. Thomas leaned forward. Where's her boy toy? Right on cue, James Carter appeared. They ran side by side in silence. After the workout, James picked up his water bottle, opened it, then paused empty. No water, no towel. He glanced at Emily with that pitiful expression, knowing full well she had both. Is he about to drop his final move? I commented. Thomas laughed. White Lotus behavior, classic. Emily hesitated, clearly conflicted, but in the end, handed him the water. Then she stepped closer, picked up the towel, and gently wiped the sweat off his forehead. James Carter must have waited for this moment. He grabbed her wrist, tears rolling down his cheeks like marbles, and suddenly hugged her waist and kissed her. Thomas, still mid-bite on a nut, froze like a stunned hamster. I frantically clicked the mouse, taking screenshots. Thomas threw down his snacks. Send me that gym's address. Screenshots. What good are they now? Based on how this is unfolding, there's no way they're going home separately tonight. He called the private detective he'd hired and ordered him to track them. At 9 p.m., the detective sent a message, Emily Watson and James Carter just checked into a hotel. Thomas grabbed his coat and shouted, let's go. Brother's taking you to catch those cheaters red-handed. As we reached the door, I paused. Wait, Thomas. We don't need to go ourselves. I know someone better for the job. Remember that girl from the hospital, the one who passionately swore James Carter wasn't cheating? I'd already looked into her. James had been assigning all his research projects to Sarah Brooks but taking credit for her results. The way she looked at him went far beyond admiration, it was obsession. Her repeated private gym visits proved their bond was personal, not academic. I picked up my phone and called her. Hi, sorry to bother you. But I think you'll be very interested in what I have to say. At midnight, I received the first wave of fallout. A friend request popped up. Sarah Brooks had found my contact through my number. As soon as I accepted, a flood of photos filled the chat. Each one was undeniable proof of Emily Watson and James Carter's affair. I don't know what Sarah Brooks said to them, but she burst into their hotel room. In the photo she sent, James Carter was curled up under the covers, Emily Watson was in a bathrobe, and several used crime aids were scattered on the floor. It was obscene enough to make anyone blush. Sarah called me afterward. Michael, I'm sorry for what I said to you at the hospital. I just found out today that I was played. He used my feelings to exploit my labor. He told me he loved me, all while tangling with your wife. She paused, took a breath, then added, Brother Michael, I'm going to expose who this man really is. I didn't say much. I gave her a contact and email address belonging to the husband of James Carter's former female advisor. I'd already found out that James Carter wasn't some academic genius. He published papers abroad by leeching off that advisor. In academic circles, he'd been branded a Softian academic gigolo. Eventually, her husband forced him out of the country. He's a serial offender. That night, I called Emily Watson and told her to come home. She agreed instantly, thinking I was finally softening. I'm glad you came around. "I'll be home tonight," she said. When she arrived, she looked exhausted, probably scared Sarah might expose everything. I threw fuel on the fire. The coffee table was covered with printed photos. "Emily, is that enough evidence for you?" Her face flushed. She spoke hoarsely. "You really want to leave no room for discussion, do you?" I nodded. "We're divorcing tomorrow. You'll walk away with nothing. The child stays with me. From this point forward, we're strangers." For once, Emily lost her cool. "Michael Evans, do you think you're so righteous? Let me tell you, this mess wasn't all my fault. Do you even act like a man? Since we were kids, you've always had to outshine me. Competing for first in school was one thing. But after marriage, you never stopped. You're always chasing success, always stealing the spotlight. Even now, with our marriage in shambles, all you care about is money. You're like a cold machine." Her voice trembled. "Do you know why I fell for James Carter? Because he admired me. He made me feel seen. He was gentle. He gave me what you never could." Emily crumbled onto the couch, hands over her face. I listened in silence. Then, I laughed, quiet and bitter. She looked at me through tear-streaked eyes. "What's so funny?" I shrugged. "Now I understand what impotent rage feels like. I don't even have the energy to argue anymore. I've wasted enough of my life on you. You can't wake someone who's pretending to be asleep." I handed her the divorce agreement. She sneered. "Good. I'll marry James Carter immediately. He's not cold like you. Enjoy your lonely life with all your money. Thank you for your blessings." "You're welcome," I said blandly. She yanked the agreement out of my hand and signed it without reading a word. During the divorce cooling-off period, my father called me over and over. "Are you out of your mind? You divorced your pregnant wife? Do you know what this will do to our family's name? Our business alliances?" He listed all the reasons why the divorce was a mistake: reputation, property disputes, damage to both families' interests. Not once did he mention my happiness. I let him rant, then replied calmly, "Emily's scandal is already out. The divorce is protection for both of us. But let's say it wasn't. Dad, whether or not I divorce is my decision. I'll consider your advice, but I won't be controlled anymore. And don't send Mom to talk me out of it. It's useless. My entire life, my father taught me that marrying well was key. A wife should be responsible, low-profile, supportive. He handed off the family business to my brothers and handed me a perfect wife. But reality proved how flawed that logic was. My mother stayed in a broken marriage for the kids. On the surface, everything looked peaceful, but she lived in quiet misery. I won't do the same. My life, and my child's life, will be defined by us. On the day we picked up our divorce certificates, Emily Watson brought James Carter with her. He looked sheepish in front of her. "Michael," I told her not to rush the process, but she wouldn't listen. Then Emily stepped away to answer a call, and James turned to me with a smug grin. "Michael Evans, you lost to me in college, and now you've lost again. Thanks for keeping Emily warm all these years. She's an amazing woman. Truly the best ending I could ask for." I looked at him expressionless. Just another clown in a cheap suit. After signing the papers, I turned to him and said, "I wish you two the best. Your wedding gift's already on its way." Then I walked out. That same night, I messaged Sarah Brooks, "Divorce complete. Wait for the right time and release the story." Meanwhile, Thomas Reed successfully reclaimed key assets from his wife. Once he had control, he filed for divorce. His wife laughed at him, thinking it was all for show. But he was serious. He scheduled the abortion. On that day, I accompanied him. Before his wife entered the operating room, Thomas rested his hand gently on her belly. "Michael, I feel sorry for this kid. But I don't have a choice." I gripped his shoulder. We can only make the best decision we can, right? He nodded. Inside and outside that hospital, one life was ending, another beginning. But both were acts of courage, new chapters born from pain. Not long after, the story of Emily Watson being kicked out with nothing began trending online. Apparently, she hadn't told James Carter the truth. Instead, she hired internet trolls to push romantic fluff like, true love conquers all, and, against the world together. But her, true love, couldn't stomach it. James Carter blew up and called me. Michael Evans, are you heartless? She was your wife. Even if she cheated, how could you kick her out with nothing? I laughed. This is just the beginning. God's watching. You better hope he's kind. I hung up. Hours later, the internet exploded. A trending post titled "Academic Gigolo Exposed" went viral. It broke down, piece by piece, how James Carter's so-called achievements were stolen either from his tutor or from students like Sarah Brooks. The truth always comes back louder than the lie. There was even a PowerPoint presentation circulating online painstakingly detailed with screenshots and records documenting James Carter's pattern of repeatedly destroying other people's marriages. That same day, his university issued an official statement announcing an internal investigation. Just a few days later, the results came out, the allegations were true. He had severely violated the ethics code for educators. The university terminated his position effective immediately. Compared to the earlier sugar-coated, true love posts, the reality now looked utterly laughable. Then someone uncovered reports confirming that Emily Watson had been pregnant at the time she cheated. The story of her betrayal during pregnancy sent public outrage into overdrive. The stock price of the Emily Group, already shaky, took a nosedive overnight. Emily had been a director of the company, but within hours, the board issued a statement removing her from all positions. The Watson family, never short of internal rivalry, pounced on the opportunity. Her eldest brother gathered enough support to kick her out of company leadership. Just like that, she lost everything. I blocked James Carter and Emily Watson on every platform. I never wanted to hear from either of them again. Time passed. When the baby was nearly 8 months along, I received a strange phone call. I hesitated, then answered. A familiar voice came through, hoarse and unfamiliar. Michael. Can I see you? It was Emily Watson. I hadn't heard from her in months, and even now her voice didn't sound like the woman I once knew. Before I could reply, she added hastily, Michael, I divorced that crazy James Carter. I'm sorry. I really am. Can you? I cut her off. MS. Emily, whatever happened between you and your husband has nothing to do with me. You're disgraced. Your career is over. Look in the mirror. You and I have nothing left to discuss. Don't ever call me again. On the other end of the line, I heard her trying to hold back sobs, but she didn't say another word. And I didn't stay on the line long enough to hear more. Time continued moving forward. I told myself quietly, may I have a clear mind, a healthy body, and the courage to be free. May I live kindly, without fear, and keep walking toward whatever future I choose. The end.